I'd like to call this Social Services and Housing Committee to order. Does anybody have a declaration of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll go to the first action item, and it's the Child Care Service Agreement with a name change.
So we have the recommendation before you. It's really a housekeeping item for name change, and also housekeeping around the repealing of the other bylaw numbers that were listed in the report.
Does anybody have any questions? So the name change is to Vicky's Sandbox Daycare Incorporated.
And where is this?
Oh, actually, I think this center is located in Grey County, but we have a cross-jurisdictional agreement. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Are there any further questions? So you have the recommendation. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Dave, second by Mike, that the approval be granted to enter into a new service agreement for child care services effective September 7th, 2017 with Vicky's Sandbox Daycare Incorporated, and that a bylaw be introduced for a child care services with Vicky's Sandbox Daycare Incorporated, and that bylaws number 4447, 4407, and 2016-021 be repealed. All in favor? Opposed? None. That carried. And the next is an information item on homelessness enumeration.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Our Housing Services Manager, Tanya Dixon's prepared this information report for you. Just to explain our options, the requirement is there under regulation that we must enumerate, and we will be required to do this every 2 years, beginning 2019. And the three options for enumeration are the point in time count, the registry week, and the point prevalence count. And through consultation with the Housing Subcommittee of the Poverty Task Force that will act as an advisory committee to both Bruce and Grey County for enumeration. We're suggesting that really the period prevalence count fits our municipality in terms of our size and our vast geography, best of the three options available. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you had any.
Are there any questions? Dave?
Just a clerical thing. The paragraph above financial considerations, should that not say 2018 instead of 2017?
It's just right here.
Yes, my apologies, it should be 18.
Any other questions? Yes?
This is going to be very difficult to track, is it not, Christine? Like, are we going to have staff that are going to be like one person dedicated to this, or what's your thoughts?
So the point prevalence methodology allows us to employ the use of staff at other agencies. So we train them on the collection tool, which hopefully we'll be able to do digitally and capture and then analyze the information much easier and quicker that way. But so say, for example, the coordinators at a food bank would volunteer to assist in enumeration. So then we could capture on the particular day at the food bank that week who attended and gather the data from them. Previously to creating the long-term housing strategy several years ago, we did a quasi-point prevalence count, and the Salvation Army, the YMCA, and other partners were involved at that time and assisted us in collecting the data. So it is a large undertaking, and we will have to coordinate the volunteers and train them, but I'm quite confident that we have the support at that subcommittee of the Poverty Task Force to do so.
That do go into a food bank per se, would they let the coordinator know that they are homeless, or how do they find that out?
So all of this has to be voluntarily, but generally people do participate. It's not common that they refuse participation. The questions ask are in such a way that it would say, you know, have you been homeless during this period of time? What does that look like? And so it's rather broad. And the reason that the point prevalence count fits us a little bit better is it helps us with the hidden homeless. So it's going to capture data for us that says certain individuals are spending 6 months of the year couch surfing from home to have a place to sleep. So it will capture that sort of data. As we put together the final plan, we'll bring that back so that you can see what the questions are that we're going to be asking. And again, some of the questions are regulated by the province, and we can add additional questions that might make sense for a local context if we want to.
I just have a question. So somebody is going from one house to the next, sleeping on couches. I think they must be very hard to capture because they won't go to a food bank. They'll just eat in the house they're at, right?
So those individuals, though, are often accessing the other services. So they may be accessing services through us. And so it will be part of the outreach, like our programs, such as income and employment supports, children's services, the other housing service programs. As well, they're probably accessing supports from the YMCA through the homelessness program. So they're seeking their support to get housed permanently. Or they may be on our wait list for rent geared to income. So it's not perfect, and we are not going to capture every single individual, but it will give us a sense for certain because we'll be accessing data through all the various partners that are involved in helping people that are vulnerable in the community.
Any other questions? I just have one more. So the purpose of all this is so that if you show that the homeless in our area have gone down, you get less funding, or is it tied to funding in any way? If there's more homeless, you get more funding? Is that how it works?
At this point in time, our funding isn't tied to the count of homelessness at all. They have been doing counts in what are considered HPS areas, federal areas, so typically cities, for a number of years, and they've not tied the funding to the number of homeless per se. Right now, our funding is more tied to low-income measures and other demographic data. So I don't foresee that changing. What it does, though, is help us understand the demographics of what the need is, and also starts to point to how we can have best practices in terms of what's the evidence-based approaches. Because the goal is to alleviate chronic homelessness by 2025. And so again, chronic homelessness is a very specific definition of those hardest to serve. And so looking at changing our services and systems so that we're not creating gaps in which people end up becoming homeless. So there's a lot of complexity to it, but right now our funding is not connected to a count in terms of how many people are homeless in our community.
So best practice for homeless. I'm having a hard time picturing this best practice.
So in terms of how we provide services in a safety net or safety network that prevents people from becoming homelessness. So for example, the Community Homelessness Prevention Program, the CHIPPY dollars that we receive, where we do the Housing Stability Program, and also the Housing First principles around assisting people fall into that idea of what are the best practices, what is evidence telling us about how we end homelessness and how we avoid people moving into homelessness in the first place. So this data will help understand what the landscape is.
So, and just one more question. So do you contact ministerial associations as well? Churches, Kincardine has a ministerial association. I imagine Saugeen Shores does too.
Yes, certainly, particularly the ones that are providing meal programs, because many of our ministerial associations and or churches are providing meal programs, and so people that would be homeless would attend the meal program for a hot meal. And so that is part of the outreach that occurs as well too.
Thank you. Janice?
No, that's okay. I just wanted to add, it's just a little footnote, on August the 23rd, the Peninsula Food Bank is having their annual fundraiser at the Wyerton Arena, starting at 5 o'clock. And the Peninsula Food Bank is open to everybody in Bruce County. It's primarily utilized by Northern Bruce Peninsula, South Bruce Peninsula, Cape Croker, and Erin Elderslie. All of the service groups in the area participate by donating all of the food, the labor, collecting silent auction items. Everything is looked after by the community, so 100% of the funding goes to the food bank. They have a live auction, a silent auction. I love silent auctions. I'm addicted to silent auctions. I've never ever in my life, though, seen an auction where every single item went for above the value of it. Incredibly proud of the municipalities and the work that we all do collectively for the Peninsula Food Bank. So if you're able to attend it, August 23rd at the Wyerton Arena at 5 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes? Sorry.
Sorry, through you, Madam Chair. One point that Director McDonald made that I think really needs to be highlighted is the focus on housing first and approaching the overall programming toward housing first. We now know that without a doubt, if someone's housing is unstable or unstable, then the balance of their life is dramatically affected, and it's quite exciting, the work that Christine's team is doing in that area. The other point, I wonder, Christine, just before the committee adjourns, if you would be willing to just give a small update on our new Children's Services Manager.
Thank you for the reminder. So I'm very excited. Our new Children's Services Manager, Andrea Riley, will begin with us on August 14th. So she'll start her onboarding at that point in time. She has had a varied background in municipal government, has worked for the City of Cambridge and worked for the Grand River Conservation Area, and done some development of children's programs for the City of Cambridge. And so she's really excited to join us, and she's already well known to our community because she's cottaged here for a number of years. So she's well situated and excited to be here full time.
Any other comments or questions? So thank you, Christine. That's great. Good luck with that. I'll be interested in hearing the results. Our next meeting is September the 7th, 2017, and I need a motion to adjourn, or mover and seconder. Robert and Mitch, all in favor? Opposed? We only had 2 opposed. Yeah, that's opposed, right?